Nanju, welcome to the Think Like a Dad podcast. I am so excited you're here. We met, I'd say, over 10 years ago, and I got to meet him when he was dating his now wife. I got to see the process of them having their first child and then now their second child. And I love your family. I love you.
I appreciate you having me. Um, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been what? No, since 2000, I want to say 2012, we've known each other. When I
Wow.
first walked into a movie theater to go to church, and
Yeah.
you were the first face I saw greeting me at the front, and that was it. From that point on, it was it was easy. It wasn't even
Yeah,
hard to like
man.
get to know you, get to be friends.
We got to volunteer at our church at the most grueling volunteer position, waking up at 5, sometimes 4 a.m. to go set up a theater, to have a church service. And it takes a special kind of person to do that kind of crazy volunteering for hours and to see your commitment to your relationship with God and to just that brotherhood that we had. That was I will never forget those days. Doing really hard things together with people is is something that grows you and stays with you. I've realized that.
Of course. But you know what?
Yeah.
It made it easy. It was easy because I had my brotherhood with you guys and
Mm.
the other gentlemen that we had with our on our team. It was just it didn't seem like work. It was just like, all right, I get to hang out with my guys and set
Yeah.
up a an area where people get to come and hear the word of God, and it that changed my life. I tell you that. I
Yeah.
walked in there. I used I was a Catholic, raised Catholic, and stopped going to church. Met
Mm.
my beautiful girlfriend at that time, and she's
Mm.
like, "Hey, come with me to church one day." And from that point on, it's been God all the time. So
I love that,
I
man.
can't complain about that. It was
And I'm sure the dads that are listening and the dads that are just new dads realizing that change and how much more time we had, and all of a sudden how little time openings we have to hang out. Because I remember I felt like we would hang out all the time, not only at church but then like we would eat together. We would see what time during the week we were going to get together to watch a game, and it was just like doing this life. And then all of a sudden now when I have kids, I mean, I remember the first like 3 weeks, Nanju, I was we tried to watch one TV show, one half an hour TV show, and it took us like 4 days. And obviously, there's the part of just growing and learning. And when you're doing something the first time, and something that I definitely want you to speak into, because now that you have a second child, that 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 hesitance, that carefulness of being so concerned with, like, am I gonna break this kid? Am I gonna mess him up? Every little thing I'm looking at is he breathing? And then it's like 2 minutes later, it's like, okay, is he still breathing? And that part, it slows down, and I start realizing, okay, he is actually resilient, but just time, man.
it's hilarious you say that because like I known my wife for quite some time, and then we started dating in 2011,
Mm.
and then we ended up getting married in 2014, and then we had my first son in 2017. So for like those 6 years, 11 to 17, it was no problem. Oh, let's go to dinner tonight. Okay, let's just get dressed and let's get out of the door. Oh, so and so invited us to go out tomorrow morning. All right, let's do it. Let's go. Those problems weren't. There was nothing to just get up and go and do the things we wanted to do. Oh, we were movie fanatics. We would go to the movie theaters at least once a week,
I remember.
and enjoy watching movies all the time.
Yeah.
Once we had our kid, it it changed everything because it was first of all, we didn't have a lot of family members down here in Miami where we live, um, to help out with, babysitting or watching our son or anything like that. So for us, it was like, okay, can we get a babysitter? But then my wife is very, firstborn, first
Yeah.
child. Oh, I can't trust anybody with our child at this moment.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, what do we do? So we had to kind of improvise and all right, we're watching movies at home, and then, you know, friends would invite us to go out, and we're like, sorry, we can't. We have our son is with us. We just can't pick up and go like we used to.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of time. Like I think in my son's first 5 years, we never left his side. Think about that.
Yeah.
He was never without us, without one of us in his first 5 years of him being born. So that was something that was very. Now that I look back at it, I'm like, man, what were we? Now we have our second son, and we've already gone out a couple times because we found a babysitter, and like, so it kind of changes after your first because you kind of realize, okay, these are the steps, and you know, the world's not going to end right here and then if we step out of and go out for a little bit. But
So
you have to
if
make that time.
so if you if for the new dads listening that are in that phase like me, where when someone tells us, "Hey, do you guys want to get together at 7 p.m.?" We're just like, "Are you crazy?" Like we're in the process of putting our kid down. For example, we have this friend from Ukraine that again, he doesn't have a child. and he's visiting for 2 weeks, and he's just like, "Hey, I don't have much time to get together. Can we please do dinner at 7 p.m.?" And we were just like, "Oh my goodness. This is going to be so hard because sure enough, he's so curious about like what it's like the birth process. And Andrew, it was like 9:30, and I'm literally almost, not that I didn't want to be rude, but I'm like falling asleep like while we were talking. And I was like, oh, like I literally had to say, okay, guys, I need to take you home because we need sleep.
And
It's
that's the
real.
thing that the little precious time that you have, it's either you're trying to sleep or catch up on something that you didn't get to finish, or you, the socializing and all that it's very hard. For some people, it comes easy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that all dads go through this process of like, I need my time to sleep or I need this time to finish this, but for me, it's the same thing. Like we plan our days around our kids' kind of schedule because if they don't, like my little one, if he doesn't get a nap in the afternoon, I already know he's gonna have wake ups in the middle of the night.
There you go.
And if he doesn't get to bed at a certain time, I know that if we're out at dinner till 8:39, he's gonna have a tantrum in the next 2 or 3 minutes, and it's not gonna be pretty.
Yeah.
No.
So one thing that you said was, hey, the first 5 years of Phoenix's life, we were always there. And I think during that transition also you had to move. So you're in a new place, and at least, and this is something that I'd like you to speak into, starting friendships and real relationships with people, I feel after 30 has been difficult, challenging. It's I mean, everyone's so busy, right? So with those first 5 years, and now going into this new phase with Jager, would you have done it differently, or what would you have done differently?
Wow, it's a good one. Because honestly, there's not much I would do differently because I learned from a lot of the things that we did go
Mm,
through, and it taught us a lot going forward with our second child and what we should do and what we shouldn't do.
mm,
But yeah, 2018, I lost my job, and we were like, all right, I think it's time to make a change. So we ended up going and moving to Massachusetts from Miami. Not a very easy move. Pick up
mhm.
your stuff, put it in a move truck, get the kid, our child who was at that time 1.5,
Wow.
put him in a car, and we driving to Massachusetts. Um, that was actually where we had to learn how to like schedule sleep and all this because we had to map out how to drive those miles and hours, and also make sure that we're stay on schedule with our. It taught me scheduling at that time.
Mhm.
And then being in a new town for my wife was difficult. And
Mhm.
for me, I lived there. I had my family there. I was born there.
Mhm.
Um, but for her, it was a big culture shock
Mm.
because not only did the weather change, the culture changed. From Miami to Boston, it's a very different dynamic.
Mm.
Um, and we started to realize it was at that age very hard to meet new people, even
Mm.
people, parents with new kids, and then the pandemic hit. So when the pandemic hit, everything was shut down. So there was no. We were there for about a year and a half, and then the pandemic hit.
Mhm.
So then
Wow.
it was like, all right, we're stuck at home. But I think we took it as an opportunity. Well, my wife took it more of an opportunity to be more connected with our son.
Mm.
Especially since she was with him all day. At that time, we were fortunate enough that she was able to stay home, be with him all day. She's an amazing stay-at-home mom,
That's
worked her butt
awesome.
off at home, and a full-time job. I mean, people could actually do it, but she did it very well. And having him, being able to have her 24 hours a day and being able to raise him the way she wanted to raise him,
Mhm.
it helped. And so I look at the pandemic as a positive on our end, where it was like
Yeah.
we got more connection. I was able to be home and work from home, so I got to
Yeah.
connect more with my son because his first like year and a half, close to 2 years, I was constantly out of the house,
Mhm.
whether it was working a 9 to 5 or at that time in the financial industry as an insurance agent and working from, you know, 5 to 9. So I was barely home. And it kind of like, I guess the pandemic kind of like stopped me in my tracks and said, look, there's more important things in life than just work and making money. And, so for me, it was like, all right, I can connect with my son. I can connect more with my wife. So it was a good moment for us. And then the move kind of reset my life. Miami is a hustle and bustle town. It's not
Mhm.
very easy to live here without having to hustle and bustle. But
Yeah.
moving to Massachusetts was not necessarily laid back, but it was much more family oriented, quiet, not as not a party. So
Yeah.
it was a reset for me. For me,
Mhm.
it was a huge reset, and we got to really learn and grow while we were up there. And I got to be more of a dad than anything because it really taught me to connect with my son that I
Mm.
didn't really get to connect with him for the first year and a half that he was born.
Wow.
Um,
There's
yeah,
so many
it was,
things that I want to unpack there
yeah,
because I realize that, especially when it comes to work and that provider role, it's almost like a comfort zone and an area that I can pour into, almost disconnect and justify because there is a sense of urgency. And you and I both see it in the budget and in the transactions that when you have a child, there is way more unexpected expenses. I mean, I think there's people that talk about a certain amount, and then over years they say how much each child you're going to spend the money on. But for some reason, I was not so focused on that, and I think our approach was just, hey, we're just going to take it in stride, but not like there was something in me that made this identity of like I am a provider and this is what I need to do and I think I can do it well, that kind of clicks on as I'm seeing my child, and I just like I really want to make sure that I can do that. But I also know, because of my experience with my dad, I never had a memory of a family vacation with my dad. It was always actually my mom, myself, and my sister, or my mom and myself, because my dad's role of being a provider was always something that he used in a way to say, I can't because I need to work to provide for this vacation. And I wish so much, looking back now and saying, I wish we would have had a lot less and had him a lot more in those moments than that provider role. But I also respect and understand my dad's position and maybe not being able to have the conversation that we're having right now, that maybe dads are listening to right now, that are just concerned and worried that I want the best for my son. I want the best for my daughter, and I need to provide, and it's money, and it's so much more than that. These hard things have taught me so much. But then when it comes to like my kid, I think I just don't want him to suffer and I don't want him to go through hard things. And it's like, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. That's talking crazy.
Yeah, in in parenting, we want to protect our children as much
Yeah.
as we can and keep them away from things that can harm them, things that can hurt them. But at the same time, we have to allow them to fail and learn from those fails, whatever it is they're doing. Because if
Mm.
we do not and we don't allow them to, they're never going to learn from them. Um,
So
you
can you tell
know,
me about something practically, or maybe like an example that you practice that with your boys, or that's happened recently, that you want to kind of save them from the situation of not happening, but you kind of let
huh.
the fail happen?
So the other day, I took my boys out. My son's starting to ride his scooter, my oldest. So he's starting to ride his scooter and he's getting really good at it. He loves it. So now every time we have a chance to go out and ride his scooter, he does. But every time he rides it, I feel like I need to be right behind him. So if he falls, I can catch him. But at the same time, he's telling me, Dad, I got it, Dad. I got it. Don't worry about it. I got it. And I realize I have to allow him to fail or fall so he can learn from it and be able to protect himself at times. But then what the funniest part was, my little one, the 2-year old, when the scooter was free, decided, oh, I'm going to go ride the scooter myself. And I saw him grab the scooter, jump on, and I jumped out of my seat to run and go grab him. And he ended up riding the scooter by himself with no issues. And I was
Uh,
just like, that is just a sign right there that they are more capable to do, they are able to do greater things if we allow them to.
mm.
But if we continue to set parameters where they're not allowed to do certain things, they're not going to learn to do them. So in that aspect, I always look at it like you have to allow them to fail. Now,
Mm.
you don't have to allow them to get hurt. You have to allow them to feel that sense of failure to just learn from it.
Yeah.
I don't want my son becoming a perfectionist where when he does fail, it bothers him to a point where he doesn't know how to overcome that emotion. And that's
Have you heard of that story about what happens when you assist a butterfly or a moth when they're coming out of their cocoon?
no.
So when there's a butterfly, when there's a cocoon, and as the butterfly or the moth is about to push out, they look like they're not going to be able to make it. And what happens, and they've done this experiment, is that if you go and you cut the cocoon a little bit or assist them in getting out, you're actually preventing them from being able to establish, I don't know if it's the muscles or the exoskeleton, how insects work, I have no idea. But if they don't have that resistance to push out of the cocoon themselves, they will literally die because they
No.
don't have the development that the cocoon would the resistance that the cocoon would provide in order for them to be able to spread their wings fully and to be able to get out. Isn't that crazy?
That is that is great.
So I think about that and how much coddling, or I don't know if that's the word, but there's also a quote by this guy Jordan Peterson. I think he's a doctor. He says the importance of watching your kids, allowing your kids to do things dangerous, to do dangerous things carefully. And that
Yeah. And in the moments of their failure, that I want to make sure I make this a very important aspect is that in their moments of failure, we also have to make sure in those failures we're showing them love.
mm,
Because we want them to, I guess, how do you say it, is teaching a child that they're enough without
mm.
having to focus on score and accomplishment, I guess you can say.
So tell me what that looks like practically, because I think I understand what you're saying, but when you say, I mean, love obviously subjective, and love is an action, not always just oh, you're so nice, you're so good, like what does that look like in showing them love, and in a place of you, the dad, and building up their confidence in the failure, or the fail happens. Give me an example of, okay, the fail happens, how do I show love? Or is it tough love? Or what does that look like?
So, for example, my oldest, Phoenix, he tends to be very score focused or very uh, pleasing to people. He likes to please people
Mm,
and making
wow.
sure that what he's doing is making sure that everyone else is happy. So when he
Ooh.
feels that sense of he's not pleasing anyone or the person's not happy with him, he tends to get very emotional.
Mm,
So in moments that we're doing homework or something like that, and I see that he does something wrong, I don't want to explain to him right away that, oh, you did it wrong, you need to fix it. It's more like, you made a mistake, but it's okay. Mistakes happen.
mm,
You're still enough. You're still doing your best, and your best is enough. Every morning we have affirmations when I drop him off at school to make sure that he's confident, to make sure that
mhm,
he's proud of himself, to make
mm.
sure he knows that he's loved, and to make
Wow.
sure that his best, every time we get out of the car, I tell him, your best, and he finishes my sentence, is enough.
Mm,
So as long as he knows that, he won't have to be a people pleaser. He won't have to be someone that focuses on the score. It's more of focusing on, am I doing what my best in this moment? So for him, giving him the love, giving him the confidence. It's more love and confidence. Just letting him know that everything he does, and we also preference it, all things can be done through God himself, and he knows
mhm,
that his God is protecting him, that he can get things done even if during those times that he fails. So I try to emphasize a lot of love and affection and confidence in him because I want to build him up. I don't want to build him down. I want to make
mhm,
sure that everything he's doing with that confidence that I can do this. Because and I go back to my childhood. I was
mm,
focused on getting good grades. If I brought home a C, it was bad,
mhm.
and I was looked at like, "What are you doing wrong? Why are you doing this
What's wrong
way?
with you?
What's wrong with you?"
Oof.
And I don't blame my mom for that because that's
Mhm,
what she was probably learning. And I look at it also, it built me up to be the person I am today. But I also have to, as a parent, I have to parent more cognitively than conditionally,
mm,
meaning using more of like what I'm learning today and aspects of, like I explained, like love. I lead with love now. And
mm.
in the beginning of my parenting, trust me, I was a disciplinarian and I was, no, that is wrong. You can't do that. And you can't do that because that's what I was taught.
Mhm,
That's what I grew up with when I was growing
mhm,
up. But now, like, thank God for my wife. And God
mm,
puts people in your life for a reason
mm,
because she is one that took her situation as growing up because she didn't have the best life, growing up. And she realized I don't want to be that type of parent. And she's the one who teaches me a lot of aspects of love, lead with kindness, allow your child to come to you safely without feeling fear, without feeling uh, like they can't. Because that's the problem. Sometimes kids they grow up to the point where they don't trust their parents because they feel like their parents are going to judge them or they're going to criticize them for doing something wrong. And I don't want that for my child.
But here's the one part that concerns me, and I think we all experience it in society today, where everyone gets a trophy for just showing up, for being, for the first place is almost like shunned at now, where excellence is almost like, well, everyone is going to win and everyone is going to do okay. And not that I'm pushing back on on what you said, because I know it's very individual with Phoenix that you're talking about, and you're building up that self-confidence. But at the same time, how do you take the phrase your best is enough to moments where maybe you have experience and I have experience where our best wasn't enough, and there was maybe just this knowledge gap, and accepting the fact that, hey, I didn't have enough to do this, but I can build, practice, learn, read the books, have the experience, do the thing that will take me to, if a situation like that appears again, I can excel, I can win at that moment. How do you balance that piece? And how are you kind of combating that, like, the other, I think the ugly side of hey, everyone does their best and everyone's going to do good and everyone's going to get first place, because there isn't a first place, and it's like, wait a second, that's not how life works.
That's a very good question because it's hard. It's not easy because you want your son to be the one, the winner, and you want him to be the first place and all that. Um, and I noticed that when my son doesn't get first place, it bothers him, and he gets upset that he didn't win. But everyone gets a trophy. I don't agree with because it's just, that's not how I grew up either. I was like, just because, but at the same time, I also let him know just because you didn't get first place, I don't want you to use that as a loser mentality that, oh, I didn't do well. I didn't, oh, I want him to learn from it. So I kind of have to teach him in the sense, hey, take what happened and what can we do to get better?
Mm.
You
So
at
very
that moment,
individual, like,
at that
hey.
moment, yeah, at that moment, your best was enough. But to get to the next step, what do we need to do to make it even better? Where your best is
Mm.
even better than what you did. It's more of kind of like letting them know, you know, you can always learn from your faults. You can learn from being second place. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean you get a trophy. It just means, okay, I need to get better at what I did. How do I do that? Is it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, reading more? Is it practicing more? I right now he's playing sports, and for me, I'm a big time sports guy. I love
You
my
are
sport.
a fierce competitor. For our
And
listeners,
but
Nanju goes hard in the paint, whether it's basketball, football, and I've gotten the experience to it. And I love being on his team because that that fire, that, like, at the end of a game, like, we are going to fight, push, and like, I'm gonna get close to hurting somebody in the context of the game. But yeah, our emotions are gonna flare because we want to win, and I want to be on your team because you are a fierce competitor. So now let's talk about the sports side. Your son Phoenix is going into sports. How are you translating that sportsmanship and at the same time fierce competitor, and at the same time, hey, I'm a team player? So give me some gold, Naju.
so this was difficult. I would say this is probably one of the most difficult things because at the age of 2, my son started playing soccer and the sports that he's able to play. And at that time they're just running around kicking the ball. It's not like no scores are being taken or whatever. And as he's getting older, I put him in. He's in soccer. He was in basketball. But started to realize that sports wasn't his number one thing. My
Mm,
son, I starting to see he's more artistic in the sense that he loves art, he loves
okay.
music. He loves those things. But
Mm-hmm.
he still plays the sports because he loves playing with his friends.
Nice.
Me being the competitor, I did a lot of like in the beginning yelling and screaming and I was one of those parents that was like, go ahead, run after the ball, go do your best.
Yeah, because that's
And
what
my
you
wife
do.
would look at me like, hello, he's 4, hello. So for me, it was a parenting moment where I had to sit back and look and be like, okay, my son's probably not going to be the soccer star like a Messi or anyone like that. I need to allow him to enjoy the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, he's learning certain skill sets just
Yeah.
being in the sport.
Wow. Yeah.
So I took the focus from him about away from winning those specific games
Mm-hmm.
and more of learning the practices of what he's learning in the game, which is discipline, listening, those type of skills that sports taught me.
Yeah.
I wasn't the greatest athlete, but I did my best to make sure that I was on the team and making sure that I was contributing. So
Yeah.
I make sure I let him know in that aspect you need to contribute what you can, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time you need to listen to your coaches
Mm.
and allow yourself to learn things outside of just winning. That's
Yeah.
what I think parents tend to forget is everything is about winning and we
Mm-hmm.
don't realize that there's more to it than just winning.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole
And it goes back
everything
to that,
affects everything.
but it goes back to what you're saying. Not everyone gets a trophy. Not everybody's a winner. Every so it is like a balancing act. And as parents, it's hard for us because you want your child to succeed in everything they do. You don't just
Mm-hmm.
want them to fail all the time, but I always have to take take the personal reflect and sit back and say, okay, as a parent, what can I work on when I'm at his games, or what can I do to make
Mm.
sure I'm encouraging him, but not making it seem like winning is the only thing that matters to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that
And
takes
I'm a competitive
self-control.
guy.
That so
I
you're
love to
working
win.
on you at the same
E-
time.
exa- exactly. It's
Wow.
it's a lot of it's a lot of parenting is a lot of self reflection,
Mm-hmm.
and you see it through your children a lot of the time,
Wow.
where they will show you who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
They're like your mirror at the same time. So
Mm.
anything that I do will reflect off my kids, and I see it a lot. There's
Yeah.
times where I would scream in the house, and because whether it was me getting angry or nobody listening to me, and then the next day it would be one of them yelling at me, and I'm like, whoa. And then you look back and you're like, wait a minute, I can't teach them that. That's something I have. My actions are more important than my advice.
Mm.
It's hard to
Yeah.
look at yourself and be like, man, I did this wrong. I
Yeah.
did that wrong. How can I reflect? How can I fix it?
Yeah.
And again, I go back to my wife. My wife is my anchor when it comes to parenting because
Mm.
she
It's a
is
team.
somebody that very calm in nature, very people person. And when it comes to parenting, it leads with love, affection, and kindness all the time.
Wow.
And I always thought like, oh, I have to be the disciplinarian because she's going to be the kind one. So someone needs to be the assertive one. And in reality, I realized when I lead with love and I lead with softness,
Mm-hmm.
I get more out of them than I do when I'm yelling, screaming.
Yeah.
It,
One thing that you mentioned earlier, and I kind of want to go back to, you lost your job, but you survived. And not only that, I think you even got or a better job, or you made do with what you had. So that's a long way to ask. Can you walk me through that scenario of, hey, I don't have a job, or I am losing my job, I have bills, and I need to get out of this hole, and I need to get out of it fast without having that pressure break you, without having that pressure. And maybe there were moments that there were cracks, there was fights, but can you take me to that moment and how you as a dad, as a parent, as a husband, as a man, thrived or got out of it?
Well, so when I did get the news in 2018 that I was being let go, it was like it was one of the hardest things at that time. Like the moment was just so like because my wife wasn't working, like I said, she would stay at home. So it was like, okay, where's our income gonna come from? How am I gonna feed my child? How am I gonna pay for diapers? How am I gonna pay for food? How am I gonna... And we were fortunate at that time. We had some savings left, some savings to be able to,
Hmm.
you know, grab our stuff. And that was when we decided, all right, if we're gonna move, this is the time to move and reset. I was fortunate enough to get help from. We were fortunate enough to get help from our parents at that time. My dad in Massachusetts allowed us to stay at his home for, a couple months while we got back on our feet.
Wow.
But for me, it was more, all right, my back's against the wall. There's nothing, I couldn't be, oh, sorry for myself. I couldn't go down that road of, oh, I'm a victim. They fired me for this and this. I had to just go out there and look for another job and find
Yeah.
something to pay the bills. No matter
Yeah.
what it was, I was. So when I got to Massachusetts, the funny part is when I got there, I started, I was already applying, looking, and I got there and there was a position open, and they
Hmm.
called me and they're like, "Oh, we'd like to interview." The place was about an hour away from where I was,
Hmm.
so it was an hour drive there and an hour drive back. But again,
Hmm.
I didn't have many choices. I had to just take what I could at that time and then go
Hmm.
build from there. Fortunately, it was a position that I enjoyed. It paid very well. We're slowly, living with my dad. Thank God we didn't have rent or anything to pay at that time. So we were able to start saving a little money here and there, kind of get back on our feet. And in those moments, it was honestly just, when I got the position, it was a sense of like relief, but it kind of took that pressure off my shoulders in a sense where I was like, all right, we have something now. I can pay bills. I can pay for food and diapers. This can't happen again.
Hmm.
What do we need to do to make sure we're set up where it doesn't happen again? So I started figuring out, okay, secondary income, what do I need to
Okay.
do? Does, you know, what is our plan? And then as the funny part is when I got this job about a year and a half later, they got rid of the department. So I got let go again.
Whoa.
So then here's that fear again. Oh my God, what? This just happened. But then I turned it around and I was like, okay, they, funny part, they let a lot of people go.
Hmm.
I stayed to the very end. So they had an audit that they had to do at the end of the year and they
Hmm.
had nobody else to get information from. So what did I turn it into? An opportunity. I became a consultant. I raised my rate. I was making double of what I was making as salary,
Hmm.
and they kept me on for another 3 to 4 months, which carried me to my next job.
Hmm.
So again, it
Yeah.
goes back to that take what you have
Hmm.
and you have to make lemons out of lemonade out of lemons. I get, lemons out
Hmm.
of lemons, whatever that phrase is. You have to take what you have and go with it. And at the same time, I'm just thankful for my wife. It all leads back to my home.
Yeah, that's where I kind of wanted to go. Like in those moments of pressure, what I feel like sometimes as like with my personality, I have a tendency to withdraw, to hold back, to I don't want to let you in on the bad news, but like I've realized that doesn't work with my wife. She feels left out because the reality is, and how we believe, what the Bible says about marriage, and spiritually, we both believe as followers of Christ, right? That we have become one with our wives. So for me to literally withdraw and exclude my wife, I'm excluding our oneness. I'm driving a wedge between us. And I don't ever want to do that, whether it's in the light pressure moments or the really tough moments like you're experiencing. So, can you tell me what some of the conversations look like? How hard was that not to reserve and just like, I just need to work, I just need to do this, and then you can talk to me when everything's settled, when everything's okay again? And the reality
So,
is that that's not real, because life doesn't work like that. So for
so that,
but
yeah,
I'm
we
sure
had
that there's dads going through it right now. So how did that look like? Two things. How did that look like as you're going through the roller coaster with your wife, and how that brought you guys either closer together or further apart? And then two, what did that look like in your faith and in your connection and talk with God?
in in that moment, I thought I had to resolve it by myself. I
Mm,
thought I was the only one that could solve this problem and nobody else could help. And it kind of made my wife feel like, why are we together? Why are we married? I'm your partner. We're in this together.
mm,
So even though I was the one that needed to go out and find a job, she's also felt that same pressure as a mother, as a wife, as somebody that was holding it down in the household. She started like, do I need to get a job? Do I need to do this? Like her anxiety got really high on the moments because as men, we are like, oh no, we're the providers. We'll bring the bread home. You don't need to worry about that. Don't worry about that. And when we tell women don't worry about that, they're going to worry about it. It doesn't. It's like
Those
if
are
you
like
telling,
probably the worst words to say. Don't worry about it.
yeah,
It's like, because you
or
said that, I
relax.
am
It's
worrying
okay,
about it.
relax. No, she's not going to relax if you keep telling her to relax. So for her, it was just I had to go back and look. It was just as hard for her as it was for me.
Mm,
The failure wasn't just my failure, it was also her failure in the sense where she's like, we're in this together, we're married, we have a child together. So, what I loved, what she did in this moment was build my confidence back up, allowed me
wow.
to feel like, hey, no matter what position you get, you can do it. Don't don't sabotage yourself. Don't feel like you're not good enough for that job. She was constantly encouraging me when it came to my interviews, or if you want, hey, do you want to go over some questions? Do you want to do this? And knowing also, I was able to go out and do these interviews and grab a job, knowing that my house was taken care of. As my wife, she made sure my son was provided, that my son didn't feel the pressure, even though he was 1.5, close to 2.
Hmm.
He
They're
made the
formative
home
years, though.
correct. He made the home feel like a home. He made it feel
Wow.
like there's nothing going on. He didn't make it. He made it feel like nobody in the house. Like we didn't lose our job. You get what I'm saying? Like that's
Yeah.
the sense of calmness that she put among
Mm.
our home, or just our family. Even though we were living with my dad at the time, she still made it calm. And and it
That's
wasn't
beautiful.
easy living with your in-laws. I'm sure for her. So,
No.
so
I mean, I just imagined my wife, and when we go see our in laws, right? Like, there's triggers, man, and there's things
sure.
that I'm sure your dad would say that go all the way back to your childhood, and that can just like set you off, right?
Well,
And
not
and
even
then
that.
from
They
Steph,
had
like
the
not be living them with them before.
and my parents, my dad, they're very old school mentality. So it's like, oh, the wife cooks and cleans and this and that, and you. And I was like, well, that's not our dynamic. Like our dynamic is very different. Even though I work, even though I'm bringing, I'm nine, he's working too. Raising a child 24/7 is a job.
Wow,
And I want people to know that, like,
the
stay at home
toughest
moms
job.
is a job. And if I could help her by cleaning dishes, making dinner that night, whatever the case may be, that's something that she instilled in me, that we're partners in this thing called life. And if you
Mm.
don't look at it as partnership and you just look at it as, oh, this is your job and that's your job, it's not going to work.
Wow.
So in that moment of my downtime, she honestly helped me by, again, giving me the confidence, building me up, and making sure that my son was taken care of.
That's awesome.
And it allowed me to flourish in the fact that I was able to get a job and then get let go. And then I ended up getting another job. And as I progressed, each job got better and better. More
Mm.
income came in. We were able to move out of my dad's and live in our own place. And then we decided to come back to Miami again, which was another move. So you can imagine two not cross country, but north to south
Yeah.
moves
Yeah.
within 3 years.
Yeah.
Not easy.
No.
Obviously, she didn't like the cold. We kind of
Mm-hmm.
got tired of the weather. So that's when we decided to move back to Miami. Also,
Yeah.
we had some family, emergency issues, but we're flourishing now again, being back here. But also, when I tell you I went to Massachusetts for a reset, it
Mm-hmm.
changed the way I think now that I'm in Miami again. I feel more mature, feel
Mm-hmm.
more able to be a better parent, a better dad,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And moving back, we had both kids.
Yeah.
Jagger was born during the pandemic, which was a trial on its own. And then moving back with both kids, but we learned from moving up, it, coming back down, it was a lot, I guess, calmer in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
where we kind of knew the aspects of the move. We kind of understood, what movers to choose, how to choose them, what to look for, make sure they don't overprice you, how the kids schedule. Why don't we turn this into a family vacation where we drive down and stop at certain places and do some sightseeing,
Mm.
not just a simple, okay, we got to move and go. So it going up was one thing, and then coming back down, we learned a whole totally different thing.
Yeah, it
And then
sounds
now
like
that we're living
you've
here
learned to journey well,
yeah,
because it's the
it
journey, right?
was
And it was
yeah, exactly.
hard. You guys went through, if there was a map of your life, those were the mountains. You guys were freaking cliff hanging but what you're saying is that you didn't come back scarred and maimed by it. You came back stronger and with a
Correct.
peace. So now going back to that relationship with God and how that played a role, how would you say in those really tough moments
My faith,
where it's kind of like easy to, at least for me, to say like, God, I got to push through, I don't got time for you right now, or like, please help me, but I'm just going to go.
yeah. Well,
What
and you and I have this conversation all the time, where during our highest moments, we're like, yeah, that was all me. That was all me. I did it. And then in our lowest moments, we're like, God, please help me. God, please help me. And it kind of made me realize how strong my faith was,
mm,
and how much more I needed to grow because it wasn't where it needed to be.
mm,
Because I'm someone that doesn't love a lot of change. I
I
was with
really,
my first job for almost 15 years right out of college, and it made me realize that God has everything in his hands. There's nothing that you're doing that he doesn't have a play on. And
oof.
being in those lowest moments where, you know, would I be able to provide for my family? Would I be able to do? It was prayer. I had to pray on it. I had to have faith that God was not going to let me fail. And he also puts us in those moments where you have to look at yourself and be like, okay, if I really have faith, then I just need to do his work. And I need to show my son that with faith and work, all things will go through with no problems. And I always have a fear that I'll lose my job and I'll be homeless, and but I know with my faith in God, it allows me to not have to worry about that. Not
To
have
take
to be like,
courage.
you know, he's if I fall, I'm gonna get right back up. It
Hmm.
that's just how it is. And
Wow,
God
full
always,
circle on
yeah,
how you were talking about the scooter and your role over, and I'm envisioning like God letting you go on your scooter of life.
yeah, and letting
Like
me
he's
fall
got
if I need to fall, and he knows I'll get right back up.
you.
And it's just funny, like all the things that lead up to where we are today. We look back, and me and my wife are always we always kind of reflect a little bit on like we'll have complaints all the time. There'll be like times where we'll complain about something, and then 2 days later, God fixes it, or something happens, and we're like, oh my God, like we're trying to fix it ourselves, and in the end of the day, it's God Himself, and it's just so now like it's provided where my son goes to an amazing school.
Mm.
He's literally next. We're 5 minutes from his school. My wife found a job one weekend back. She was able to find a job working, uh, you know, at a university where she's, enjoying excelling and back into that workforce because she kind of wanted to feel how it is to go be back at work.
Yeah.
Um, and now with my current job, I'm getting paid almost the same that I was been getting paid since I got fired. But at the same time, I have more time with my family, which is
Mm.
crazy.
Quality of life.
Correct. It goes back to
Yeah.
what you were saying about your dad, like vacations and this. So now we plan, like, I took this week off of work
Mm-hmm.
without
Nice.
feeling like, oh my God, I can't take time off. I have to work. I can't. And this week is my close week for the end of the month. We have to close the
Mm-hmm.
week. But I was like, no. So this week my son has spring break. We took the week off, me and my wife, and we're gonna go enjoy our week with family.
Mm.
And
Boundaries.
it you have to set them as parents. You have to make time for your kids. And I go back to the sermon. Me and you go to the same church, and we got to listen to our pastor speak about infidelity and
Yeah.
the aspects of it. And it's not just infidelity in the sense of you being with somebody else. Infidelity with your job. It's infidelity with different things that you're not putting your family first, you know? And
Oof.
that is something that really hit me strong where I'm like, I have to take time for my kids. They give us vacation, they give us sick time, they give us PTO, they give us all those things, and we need to use them. You can't feel fear of using those times that you're gonna lose your job. And
Yeah.
if I do lose my job, God has me, then I'm gonna get another job, whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. Or I go out and do something else on my own, whatever it is. But I have to have that aspect of my family has to come first,
Yeah.
regardless.
I recently had a moment where I didn't succeed, where my son had just been born. The company that I work for has gotten the biggest client that they ever had. And they were calling me, asking me to solve problems and answer questions. And instead of putting a boundary and saying, my son was just born, I'll be back next week, figure it out. I I didn't do that. I stepped out. I cheated. My wife was left alone after cesarean. And I'm not and I'm saying this with because I'm looking at it and not to bring up the guilt, but to also for hopefully the dads that are listening, those moments where I messed up and it's I feel the burden because here's the reality. If I were to die today, they'd put up that job filling post the same day, probably, you know? And
Hmm.
I like doing a job well done, but I can't let fear rule my life because I can fear my way into cheating on my wife with work, and I did. And it was and it's affected that it was a hurt, and um we're still going over it because thank God, yes, I get to work remote, but there was a moment where it was it was so hurtful, you know? It was so hurtful, and business is back to usual, but I had a moment where I wasn't able to have the courage and the healthy boundaries to say, no, I need to be with my son. I need to prioritize, right? And leaning on my faith because God has taken me through. He's gotten me through so much worse, you know. But I have that fear that if I don't do this now, that I'm going to be left without a job. And I just want to say thank you for sharing that because you know, like God is faithful and God does provide. And yeah, it's going to be tough, but tough together on the same page with healthy boundaries, with courage is way better than leading with fear and collapsing to the pressure of something that's not right.
Correct. And I also look at it, society in general, as dads, when a child is born, oh, you can come right back to work. You didn't have the baby. But that that's the view that we have as dads. Like,
Yeah.
no, we need time to be with our child at that time, to bond with our kid, and those are the most precious moments in the child's life. Is their first, like, what is it, first 2 or 3 years that they're
Yeah.
learning and growing, and it's hard because, like, as dads, since we are looked at as the providers, and that's all we're
Hmm.
looked at as, we
Hmm.
have so much more to do than just provide. We have
Yeah.
to love. We have to,
Mm.
you know, to keep, keep feel secure, provide protection, and all those aspects of what a dad's supposed to do. Then at the same time, we're not allowed to take time off because it looks bad upon you to have to take time off to be with your child, or, you know. So I always tell my wife that we have to, sometimes you have to just do what's best for you and not what's best for them, because you have to protect what you have with your family.
Yeah.
And in that moment, but in that moment that you feel that you failed, you also are someone that's reflecting on it, looking back at it. And I'm sure in another moment, if you have that moment again, you will be like, wait a minute, this happened. I'm going to learn from it, and I
Hmm.
will set my boundaries.
That's so. What does it look like to healthy hustle for you? What does it look like to be in communication and with your wife about the extra time that what you're going to give in order to push and excel and get better um financially or
So
vocationally for you today because you
the key
are one of the
word,
hardest working people I know. You push and you want to get better. So, but what does that look like in a healthy way now? Not a toxic hustle, but a healthy hustle.
yeah. Well, the key word you said first is communication. Involving my wife in the aspects of this healthy hustle is very important. Um, because I know she hustles too, and she wants to be able
Yeah.
to provide for her family as well. So it was us communicating and us getting on the same page of what does our 5 year plan look like? What does our future look like? What do we want?
Goals.
What do we have? What do we need to get there? Um, there's times where I don't want to do anything. I'm
Yeah.
very like, I'll get stuck to the TV, and like,
Yeah.
and she has to like be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, where are we going with this?
Mm.
Like, are we gonna constantly be in this rat race where it's the same thing over and over again?
That's a good
And we
wife.
had I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a real conversation about what steps are we going to take to provide more to get better at what we're doing. Whether it's, do I look for a better job, or do I increase my knowledge? Do I go back to school and get my CPA? Do I get my master's? What do those things look like? And if we're not looking into it, then what are we really doing?
Mm,
So he brought that out of me, and now we're focused on a weekly meetup, me and her, where we'll sit
nice.
down and go over things like, okay, what were the steps that we were supposed to take this week? Did you talk to somebody? Did you find out how much the education would cost? Is the ROI for that, is it worth it? If
Hmm.
not, what else can we do? Because my wife now works full time and also has her own business on the side.
Wow.
So we
So
also
you
have
guys
to carve up.
are asking about her time too, right? Like,
Yeah,
hey, is it worth it? Is it?
correct. Is it
Wow.
like, it, and what I've learned is, we're starting to realize, like, okay, the other day we were talking, do we find remote work
Mm,
and move to another state where the cost of living is cheaper, but we could still work, make the same income?
mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure there's parents out there too that are trying to buy a house or trying
Yeah.
to increase, something that they're doing in their life, or go on more
Mm-hmm.
vacations, or whatever the case may be. And inflation obviously is not helping us, but the question is, do we sit there and pout, or do you
Mm,
get up and do something about it?
mm.
And at moments, I would sit there and pout. And I'm
Yeah.
being vulnerable with you now is like,
Yeah.
I would honestly just get tired and like, I'm tired of this. I don't, but then at the same time, what am I showing my kids? What am I providing them?
Wow.
Am I not, do they, if they see their dad just sitting there watching TV all day, is that the life that they're going to live when they grow up? So
Like
now
you
it's like,
said,
okay,
actions are more important than advice.
that's it. So now it's like, okay, start reading more, start educating ourselves more, whether it's YouTube videos, whether it's learning about the real estate market so you can have a better aspect of how much I need to save, how much I need. So now it's action plans. Like,
Mm.
what's next? What are we doing? What's our plan? What do we need to get to the next step?
Yeah,
Small goals.
keeping your eye on the ball.
And as long as you start, small wins end up becoming big wins.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that now is, okay, we sit down, we look at our finances. What can we do in
Looking at it.
regards to, that's the number one thing, and it's the hardest thing. Trust
Mm.
me, is
Yeah,
talking about
budgeting.
finances
Yeah. Yeah.
and being vulnerable with your money and
Mm-hmm.
what you're spending it on. And I think the best thing that I've done since the moment of losing my job was involving my wife,
Ooh.
allowing her to be in those conversations about money and what bills need to be paid. And because before I did it all by myself, I didn't involve her. I was
Wow.
I was scared to see what she would say on the things that we're spending, or what I was spending secretly, if anything.
Yeah, control.
And exactly. So, and I know it was a sense of pride on my end, but at the same time, it made her feel like she wasn't capable.
Wow.
And it was a point in our marriage. It was really hard because not involving her hurt her and
Mm.
hurt our marriage. So now I'm transparent as I can be.
Mm.
We're both
And
on
that's
the same
hard.
accounts. We we both discuss, our budget, what we need to spend, um, and what we have, what we don't have, and at the same time, making sure that we provide a life for our kids that they're going to remember, they're going to enjoy. Um,
Yeah,
and the,
it's what I hear you saying is we're taking a position of creating instead of consuming. we're flipping the role on that, and putting controls and boundaries where they need to be, and getting creative on how we want our goals to happen. And I love that you mentioned goals, because my wife is such a big proponent of that. And man, like I definitely married up, and I hear it with you and Steph, where you have this awesome woman that's telling you, hey, look, let's look at it, let's look at the goals. And I relate to you, where it's just like I want to zone out in front of and veg out in front of the TV, but that doesn't do anything. It just delays the problem, it
Yeah.
delays the creativity, it delays the good things that God wants to do with us. So Nanju, I love you, man. Thank you for taking this time to give us so many wisdom bombs, to give us so much of your life, putting it out there so that other dads can know, one, they're not alone, two, that there's an opportunity to be better, and that and sharing your story is going to help other dads. So thank you.
No, and I want to thank you for having me.